Ain't no way a ban list drops less than a day after I make a video about the dragons. Insane. That's crazy. I'm not saying that it's because of me, obviously, but the timing is kinda wild. Anyway, before we begin, for those that may not understand how ban lists work, let me explain. Yu-Gi-Oh! Will sometimes see cards or decks being too powerful and want to nerf the power of these decks so that, other archetypes can have the time to shine and have more usage and playability. If you're from the TCG and OCG, you probably know these cards are either, banned, limited, meaning that you only have one copy in your deck, or semi-limited, meaning that you can only have two. Duel Links does it a little bit differently. Cards can still be banned, but they could instead put cards in different pools, known as Limited 1, Limited 2, and Limited 3, which dictate how many of those types of cards can be in the deck. So, for example, you see that Dragius and Phoenix Dragon have had this number 3 in the corner, right? That means that they are in the Limited 3 pool. So, you can only have 3 cards of that Limited 3 pool in a deck. So, what does that mean exactly? That means that your deck could have 2 Dragiuses and 1 Phoenix Dragon, or 2 Phoenix Dragons and 1 Dragius, or you can just full send 3 Dragiuses if you want, but you can never have more than 3 Limit 3 cards in your deck. And this is the same for any of the other limit numbers as well. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's jump right into all the upcoming changes to Rush Duel Links. First, the new Forbidden Limited list. Seahorse Carrier going to 2 kinda sucks for a few reasons. The first one being a slap in the face to a lot of free-to-play players, since this was a card that you could easily get +3 copies of during the event. It kind of feeds into the thought that Konami will never truly ban or hurt cards that are from actual boxes that people need to spend gems from. But more than that, Seahorse Carrier is such a versatile and useful card for so many different decks that it just hurts the overall viability of them as well. Maybe, who knows, we'll see a rise of the Paku Paku Chu and some more beast cards? Either way, time will tell. The next 3 hits are specifically targeted towards dragons and will affect how they perform in the future. Piercing Dragon Bunker Strike going to 3 is a huge hit because of its powerful utility and stat line it provides. This dragon is used to help reset bad or even unplayable hands, allowing you to possibly summon even more monsters after the effect activates. And just like Seahorse Carrier, Bunker Strike is a card that you can obtain just by playing and winning in your PvP games. So once again, Konami hits a free card and that's really not that cool. Sportsdragon Pitcher is a card that can special summon Sportsdragon Hitter from the graveyard, allowing for 2 tributes to be put on your board for any of your big dragons. This is a very common card to have in dragon decks, and so having this be hit will decrease the amount of summons that can fill the board, and thus decrease the advantages that you can get for playing dragons. These 2 cards being put into the Limited 3 pool will really hurt Dragonic Resonance. Now, there are 4 main dragons that are in this pool: Dragius, Phoenix Dragon, Bunker Strike, and Sportsdragon Pitcher. So even if you wanted 1 copy of each, you wouldn't be able to do that and are now forced to decide what you value more in this deck. Phoenix Dragon can be important to have in these sorts of decks so that you can bring back your Draconic Slayers or any other big dragons. And Dragius's damage and clearing power is still very much unrivaled, though he could be replaced with other important utility. But Bunker Strike is also a very key card for Draconic Resonance for any of the hand resets, and, without the Sports Dragons, the Dream 7/7 end board is nigh impossible. All the other low-level dragons are kinda useless, and they slow down your pace considerably. Clear Ice Dragon getting hit to 3 really only affects the Ancient Arise decks. In most of these decks, you usually want to have at least 2 Clear Ice and 2 Burning Blaze so that you can rotate them throughout your deck, hand, and graveyard. So by putting it into a Limit 3, forces it to once again compete with cards like Dragius and Phoenix Dragon. But in this case, I think it's okay to remove Dragius to have, 1 Phoenix, 2 Clear Ices. You're still going to be able to have triple Ancient Arise Dragon, which I think is just a better card overall in that deck. While I'm glad dragons got nerfed hard here, I'm a little worried about the precedent that this sets for the future. No directed bans to UR cards that are from any purchasable boxes means that people will still have to gacha in order to get the best cards to perform the best in PvP. These hits won't necessarily make dragons unplayable, but it hopefully does make them easier to interact with and not as oppressive as before. Next, I want to talk about some of the skill changes coming up in the next update. 2 character-specific skills will be buffed: Yugioh's Explosion Drive and Roman's Shining Superstar Draw, which will hopefully increase the number of people playing those decks. Explosion Drive used to state that you were able to activate this skill to boost the attack of one face-up fire monster by 500, as well as increasing their level by 1. You can then set one Road Magic Explosion from your hand to the field. If you do, then you can add one fire attribute monster with 800 defense or less to your hand. Now, instead of 500, the buff has increased to 600 attack instead. Changes like these really only affect the full Meteor Impact decks, since this is where the skill shines the most. But I'm sure the increased damage does help with clearing bosses and overcome some traps as well. But I don't know if we're going to see a surge in play anytime soon. Shining Superstar Draw is a skill that has a long list of requirements. It can only be activated after turn 4, your opponent must have a face-up level 7 or higher monster, and you can't have any monsters on your side of the field. Only then can one of the cards you draw on your turn be Prima Gitarna the Shining Superstar. Now, however, you can activate the skill without needing your opponent to have a level 7 on their field. So you can also see why this isn't being used as much. Even now, many Psychic decks are instead running Getting Ready to be Amped Up for the 3 powerful cards that can basically win you a duel if you play them right. I don't think there's going to be any changes in usage, but it's nice to see Psychics get buffed just a little bit. Anyway, we're looking at some good changes for the next update. I've seen a lot of people say how stale the format is since everyone just plays the same decks, but hopefully, that can change sooner rather than later. I'm not going to try and copium and say that, Rush Duel Links is the best way to play. There are clearly other ways and ways that I want to start playing as well, but I don't want to drop this game or this format altogether, right? I still believe that there are some good points in it, but there's definitely a lot of negatives that many people have brought up that I have to agree with. So hopefully things can change over the next year, but for now, this is the best that we got. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Dragons will still take that top spot, but I think there will be some more decks coming for the throne soon enough. Thank you for watching.